Hey everyone, I'm sure by now many of you have seen the series on Whiteness History Month at Portland Community College. I figured this would be a good time to sort of reflect on week number one, and I'd like to show everybody here some of the things that they've been handing out at these little workshops. Keep in mind this is a publicly funded college here. So the first thing I'd like to show is from a workshop called Schooling the World, the White Man's Last Burden. So this was a little poem that they were handing out, and this is by Rudyard Kipling, which I guess he wrote something else that's well known. It is not coming to my head right away. But this was a poem that they were actually handing out to people at this thing here. Take up the white man's burden, send forth best ye breed, go send your sons to exile to serve your captives' need, to wait in heavy harness, on fluttered folk and wild, your new-caught sullen peoples, half devil, half child. Take up the white man's burden, in patience to abide, to veil the threat of terror, and check the show of pride. By open speech and simple, and 100 times made plain, to seek another's profit and work another's gain. Take up the white man's burden and reap his old reward. The blame of those ye better, the hate of those ye guard. The cry of hosts ye humor, slowly to the light. Why brought ye us from bondage, our loved Egyptian night? Take up the white man's burden, have done with childish days. The lightly proffered laurel, the easy ungrudged praise, comes now to search your manhood through all the thankless years, cold-edged with dear-bought wisdom, the judgment of your peers. And that's from 1899. This other one here was handed out at a workshop called The Buddhist Point of View on Whiteness. White supremacy culture characteristics: perfectionism, sense of urgency, defensiveness, quantity over quality, worship of the written word, paternalism, either-or thinking, power hoarding, fear of open conflict, individualism, progress is bigger, more, objectivity, and right to comfort. And this is actually some talking points from a book entitled Dismantling Racism, a workbook for social change groups by Kenneth Jones and Tema Okun from 2001. And they also handed out another thing from Peggy McIntosh's White Privilege, Unpacking the Invisible Knapsack. So this was passed out at the same one at the Buddhist Outlook on Whiteness. And I just want to highlight a couple of these things here. This is White Privilege, Unpacking the Invisible Knapsack. I was taught to see racism only in individual acts of meanness, not in invisible systems conferring dominance on my group. So let's take a look at some of these here. I can be pretty sure that my neighbors in a location will be neutral or pleasant to me. If that's the case with you, then you have white privilege. I can be sure that my children will be given curricular materials that testify to the existence of their race. This one here is pretty funny. I can go into a music shop and count on finding the music of my race represented, into a supermarket and find the staple foods which fit my cultural traditions, or into a hairdresser's shop to find someone who can cut my hair. Now, I didn't know that music had to be divided by race. I didn't know there was white music. I didn't know there was Latino music. I didn't know there was Asian music. I mean, what the hell? I see people of all different races that are enjoying all sorts of different kinds of music. So let's see here. I can arrange to protect my children most of the time from people who might not like them. What the hell does that even mean? I can talk with my mouth full and not have people put this down to my color. Who the hell goes around eating with their mouth full? I mean, unless you're 6 years old. Even by 6, I think I was eating with my mouth closed. I can criticize our government and talk about how much I fear its policies and behavior without being seen as a cultural outsider. Yeah, why don't you talk to the guys at the Malheur Refuge, how that went for them. I can be pretty sure that if I ask to talk to the person in charge, I will be facing a person of my race. My culture gives me little fear about ignoring the perspectives and powers of people of other races. I can take a job with an affirmative action employer without having my co-workers on the job suspect that I got it because of my race. So now it's Whitey's fault that affirmative action exists. Is that what they're trying to say? I can be sure that if I need legal or medical help, my race will not work against me. Now, I don't know of any doctor who's taken a look at a person of one color and said, no, I'm not going to fix your broken arm. Instead, I'm going to, fix the white guy who had his ankle messed up. I've never heard of a lawyer turn down a case where they have the opportunity to sue the crap out of someone just because their prospective client might have a different skin color than them. I can choose blemish-covered or bandages in flesh color and have them more or less match my skin. Now they're offended by Band-Aids. My children are given texts and classes which implicitly support our kind of family unit and do not turn them against my choice of domestic partnership. What's your choice of domestic partnership? That's what I want to know. So here's another one. This was a reprint. The authors of this article here, which actually went viral in March or April of 2013, white men have much to discuss about mass shootings. And this went pretty well known. This was mocked relentlessly on sites like The Blaze and Breitbart and Bearing Arms and things like that. The gals who wrote this thing are the ones in the videos that are where they're bashing the NRA and Ted Cruz and Donald Trump. The links are all on my channel. So yeah, they penned this article that went up in the Washington Post. Book resources for nurturing white children. How young children perceive race. Based on classroom observations, the authors describe how young children construct their ideas about each other as they interact. And then the first R, how children learn race and racism. A year-long observational study at a child care center. This book gives us an in-depth look at how young children begin to act out the power and other dynamics of racism. I didn't know that freaking 5-year-olds could be racist. Why are all the black kids sitting together in the cafeteria and other conversations about race? A very reader-friendly discussion of how young children from a range of racial and ethnic backgrounds, including white children, discuss their ideas about themselves and others. So I guess if people talk about racial and ethnic backgrounds, that would normally mean that they're excluding white children, because they have to go out of their way to say it includes white children. So this is the little review slip that they hand out at the end of each one of these little workshops here. The title of your Whiteness History Month event. Please rate your knowledge and existence prior to this session. New to the concept of whiteness. Familiar with the concept of whiteness. Okay, and then you have to rank this stuff here. The session expanded my knowledge and concept of whiteness. This session stimulated me to think more about the issues related to whiteness. After attending this session, I would feel more comfortable talking with others on campus about issues related to whiteness. Then they want to know how many other events. And circle the 4 words and phrases from the list below that come closest to describing the topic, knowledge, and experience gained after attending this workshop. Consequences, construction, systems, impact. Campus climate, power, differentiate, privilege, examination, investigate, analysis, reflect, identify, dismantle, community, history, inspire. And if you are thinking of some other words and phrases not on the list that describe your experience, please share them. In fact, that'd be a good thing for the viewers of this video to do in the comments here below. Please share some words and phrases that describe your experience with Whiteness History Month. So the very first thing that I got handed at the very first thing where we took the Harvard Implicit Bias Test was the Whiteness History Month Information Guide. What kind of help is the person seeking? Person needs general information about Whiteness History Month. The individual has experienced a hate crime or bias incident on campus, which apparently does not happen very often because the doofy dean there could not actually name a single instance where that has ever happened. Okay, so you have the formal process, and you have the in-person thing. The individual is upset or concerned that Whiteness History Month is reverse racism and doesn't understand why PCC would support such an effort. You can file a formal complaint at pcc.edu, or you can file your complaint in person. You know, that's like if somebody had a restaurant, you know, back in the 30s or 40s, and it said black folks have to sit on this side of the restaurant, or if there was a public drinking fountain in the Times Square that said white folks only, and you had to go to a different drinking fountain. That's your fault. You're, if you're upset or concerned about that, you know, you just don't understand why society would put forth such an effort. And then media news inquiry, which I have completely ignored. You talk to Kate Chester, Director of Community Engagement, at her phone number right there. And then it's got some other campus resources, including hate crimes and bias incident report. So this other one here, shaking hands with the elephant in the room. This is the one where they said white people fear people of color who are in authority. Let's see here. When did I first become aware of race as an issue? Since my discovery, what tools or strategies have I used to address racial discussions or complexities? What, if anything, gets in the way of communicating honestly and assertively about my experiences with race? So this was white fragility, triggers and difficulties. So these are some of the notes that I just took as the panel was going on. Most whites have a very limited understanding of racism because they have not been trained to think in complex ways about race because it benefits white dominance not to do so. Whites are often at a loss for how to respond in constructive ways because they have not had to build the cognitive or affective skills or develop the stamina that allows for constructive engagement across racial divides. Here are some reasons why. Most whites live, grow, play, learn, love, work, and die primarily in social and geographical racial segregation. White taboos is about talking openly about race. A double bind exists, a catch-22 if you will. People of color are discouraged from talking directly about their racial perspectives, yet it is stressful for whites when people of color are not willing to tell their stories or answer questions about their racial experiences. White racial sense of entitlement to racial comfort, and this is something that they've stressed in a bunch of these other workshops, is a right to comfort. Whites often confuse comfort with safety. We say we don't feel safe when what we mean is that we don't feel comfortable. The good-bad binary causes defensiveness about being connected to racism because only bad people are racist. Meritocracy, the assertion that access is equal between racial groups. And then here's the part where they were talking about in one of my other videos here, white authority can be challenged by person of color being in position of leadership. The expectation that people of color will serve whites. Psychic freedom among whites. Race is for people of color to think about. It's what happens to them. Constant messages that whites are more valuable. in virtually any situation or image deemed valuable in dominant society, whites belong. Then what can we do? We can better tolerate the discomfort of honest appraisal, honor the feelings of people of color in the discussion. It's not about your white guilt. If you make a mistake, ask people of color how you can fix it. Which is hilarious because they're saying, just as they were getting to this, they said you can't ask black people to teach you about race and educate you. And now they're saying that if you want to learn more, you have to ask a person of color. Well, which is it? This is literally, see in my notes here, this is literally a minute and a half apart where they're completely contradicting each other. So then you have to acknowledge yourself as a racial being, as is everyone else. Adopt the understanding of the intersection of multiple types of oppression as an approach to all aspects of everyday life and start taking it seriously. We need to better understand racial realities. Listen when people of color talk about everyday racism and white privilege. Ask plenty of questions. Earnestly seek to understand people of color before trying to have your viewpoint understood. Avoid conflating other oppressions with racism unless it's directly relevant to the conversation. Not take credit for starting conversations. Rather than being a spokesperson, direct peers towards the perspectives of actual people of color. Becoming a savior is not cool. Get educated and educate each other. Educate yourself about racism as much as possible before asking people of color for help. Openly call out and reject any and all white privilege you witness or experience. Challenge other white people in your life to think critically about racism. Family, friends, co-workers, teachers, and even public officials. Commit to make a difference. So then, similar to the review forum, you need to have your overall reflections, insights gained from the workshop, new possibilities realized. How can I incorporate them into my thinking? What can I do now, and what are the challenges remaining? My plan of action. It is powerful if it is being visualized. By next week, I will. By this time next month, I will have. So I'm saying by next week, I will have a bunch more videos about this wacky crap they're teaching. And by this time next month, I will have thousands upon thousands of more views on my channel because of it. So they also wanted you to write a letter to yourself. And then they'll send you the letter after a couple of years, whatever time you want this. This is what, as you're reflecting and as you're setting your own personal goals for things. And this is put on by Range Mediation and Consulting. So I find it freaking hilarious here and sad at the same time that these guys are going out in front of mainstream media and they're saying, no, it's not about white people. It's not about shaming anyone. It's not about, white guilt or anything. Now, that's what they're saying in front of the cameras on the mainstream news. But if you look at what's actually going on and what's actually being taught in these sessions, how can you describe this as anything but? Thank you for watching, and check out my channel, youtube.com/laughingatliberals, for more on this story and lots of others. I've got videos from all these different breakout sessions that have happened at this Whiteness month, and there's going to be more coming up. So thank you for tuning in.